Hi, my name is Aaron J. Marks. You can find out more about me at aaronjmarks.com. I'm a visionary purpose coach and a metaphysical leadership mentor. To my knowledge, I'm the only one in human history who's claimed either of those titles, and those that know me well tell me they couldn't imagine better ones for me. For as long as I can remember, I felt like my mind has worked just a little differently than most people's. At times it's been uncomfortable, but I've begun to see that it's actually incredibly important and that there's never been a better time to share the way that I think and see with the creative and entrepreneurial leaders out there who need to hear it. This is my podcast, A Higher Level. Everything we think, see, and do here happens on a higher level, and that makes all the difference. For some of you, these are among the most important and transformational conversations you will ever hear, and they will fill in something you may not have even known was missing, but something that is essential for your happiness and transformation. This podcast is all about creating a space for these conversations, a place to explore your deepest and most persistent questions about the human condition, a place to dream, play, and muse about the meaning of it all, a place people tell me only I can help them access, and a place of crucial importance for the human spirit and our future as the human race. On a higher level, everything is vast, rich, beautiful, and deeply optimistic. Join me there now, on a higher level. Hi, this is Aaron of aaronjmarks.com. I'm a visionary purpose coach and metaphysical leadership mentor, and welcome to another episode of A Higher Level. That's my podcast. It's the official podcast of that brand. Hope you're doing well wherever and whenever this finds you. I'm doing well. My wife and I have been sick, or we were sick a couple weeks ago, and it's been sort of lingering. So I'm hoping my voice has enough substance to record this adequately today, because it's an important topic that I'm talking about. And that's one of the reasons I've been procrastinating recording this, what's going to be a series, probably a 6 or 7 part series. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to wrap up, but it'll be at least 6, probably 7 parts. And it's a series on metaphysics, and it's a series on metaphysics in general, and then the personal metaphysics I've devised to, basically, kind of express my observations about the human spirit. So I have a cup of herbal tea here. Might be clearing my throat a little bit, and I can hear it's a little scratchy. But yeah, this is too important of a topic to put off any longer. Really, I knew I just had to sit down and record this, and I'm planning to record the whole series in one sitting here. So we'll see if I'm able to do that. So yeah, one of the things I call myself is a metaphysical leadership mentor. So why do I call myself that? What does that mean exactly? Metaphysical is a word that gets, kind of thrown around a lot these days. It's common for people to, have a metaphysical approach to business, or be in metaphysical personal development groups. And I've been in some of those myself, and I've benefited from them, considerably. That kind of outlook colors my thinking and perception quite a bit. In those groups, you find people who are interested in, and I'm trying really hard not to caricature it, because I have some very good friends, of whom this could be said to be true. And again, I have benefited from, this kind of thinking and approach myself. But, it's characterized by people with, feel like they sort of have a relationship with source, is the way that I might say that. And that's like the sort of divine source. Well, yeah, it's hard to define it without using the word, but, it's like the divine place from which everything emanates. And, we all understand that we're sort of a part of that energy. And, when I reason through that, I absolutely get to the same place, but it takes me a number of steps to get there. But what tends to come with that, I notice, is enthusiasm in things like astrology and tarot and crystals and and signs from the universe. And I think maybe a lot of people have their their little combination of those things in their life, and I certainly do as well. Some of them more than others, but so that's when people say metaphysical these days, that's often what they're evoking. what I'm going to say is when I say it, it's related, but it's a bit different. And it's a difference that matters. So I would say I've been a metaphysically curious person for as long as I can remember. And there's a story that I think about sometimes. So I'm Jewish. I come from a Jewish tradition. Lots of stories there, but one of the things that comes with that is this rite of passage called a Bar Mitzvah, or a Bat Mitzvah if you're a girl. But that's a rather a new invention, because Judaism is a traditionally patriarchal religion and culture, and women haven't had the opportunity to do that until recently. And even in Orthodox communities, I don't think that that's actually a thing. It's a reformed innovation. But at a bar mitzvah, when a boy or a girl turns 13, they go through this rite of passage where they sort of become an adult in the eyes of the community. Now it's a little archaic, because 13 is not an adult age anymore. It's you're really just beginning your adolescence at that point. But that's when the ritual is done, and it does give a sort of trajectory to the rest of your childhood. I notice, because I've done it, and a number of my friends and family members have done it too. And there is something special about it. There's something really demanding about the rigor that it puts you through to study and lead that much. But I remember at my bar mitzvah, the rabbi, he kind of knew my mind even at that point, and he said, "Yeah, so Aaron, is a person who thinks about things, and he doesn't just like take the answers that are given. Like he always looks deeper." And he, as an example of this, and this is something he had on his desk for a couple of years at this point. So it's like even at like age 9 or 10, I was this kind of philosophical pondering person. There's a prayer in Judaism called "There is a God," and it's this litany of kind of great wonders that God's worked, and these are all written before modern times, when when the Jewish people endured atrocities, like real atrocities, unlike anything the world's ever seen. And so I wrote this little kind of prose poem. It was sort of like a poem. There is a God, or is there? And it was something like, we're told there's a God, but what about the Holocaust? What about the pogroms? These narrative traumas that have lodged in our collective consciousness, especially as Jews. And I drew little pictures, of Nazis, and the best image I could conjure up of a pogrom in Eastern Europe. And I guess I gave that to the rabbi. I cut it out, pasted it onto some construction paper. So there's real significance to that little thing that I came up with. I gave it to the rabbi, I guess, and he put it under, he had this piece of glass on the top of his desk where he'd put pictures, and he put that under it, and he brought that out of my bar mitzvah and read it in front of everyone. And he's like, "Well, Aaron, you recognize the words, like, because they're yours." And so it's like, yeah, I think about that. That was, almost 30 years ago. And, so even back then I was trying to figure out this question of life, and that is, that is the essence of metaphysics. And I have metaphysics pulled up on Wikipedia here. I'm going to read a little bit here. So metaphysics, it's a branch of philosophy, so it's an old, esteemed, respected discipline that goes back thousands of years. It's a branch of philosophy that studies the fundamental nature of reality, the first principles of being, identity and change, space and time, cause and effect, necessity and possibility. Okay. And it, if you've had a conversation with me, a coaching conversation, or a conversation of philosophical inquiry, then yes, that is the shape of the conversation for which I hold space. And and we're constantly examining, like, how is that relevant to you, and how are you relevant to the flow of space and time, right? I'm going to keep going here. Metaphysics is considered one of the 4 main branches of philosophy, along with epistemology, logic, and ethics. Now, epistemology is the question of how do we know what we know. It's the question of the theory of knowledge. Logic is, sort of the philosopher's toolkit. We all have a sense of logic. But it can be, it's formally studied, and that's a branch of philosophy. And then ethics, what ought we to do? It's a very old question, of course, and it's an ultimately unanswerable one that we keep exploring. And then there's one other one, which is aesthetics, which is the study of what makes something beautiful, which is another thing I think about quite a lot. And I spent time as a musician, so that was a question I was preoccupied with. And as an entrepreneur, and one who advises businesses about marketing, brand, and communication, it's still a very relevant question, because like branding is, it's intimately associated with beauty, graphic design. So like there is a real artistry to business, and if you've ever designed anything, you know that. So going back to the article, it includes questions about the nature of consciousness and the relationship between mind and matter, between substance and attribute, and between potentiality and actuality. So what could be versus what is, So you see the themes that are shaping up here, and it's like, yeah, okay, it makes sense why I use that word, right? Now, one other thing about, and it's very old study, right? It got so some people think the word metaphysics comes from someone who studied Aristotle, and Aristotle had this treatise on physics, and then he had another treatise that came to be called metaphysics. But like this particular Aristotle scholar was like, well, first you should read physics, then you should read this one after physics. Metaphysics means after the physics, or it's like a so but like we when we think of meta, we kind of think as like above or overarching or even like underneath, we can orient that word in many conceptual ways, but ultimately that's where it came from. Nothing deeper than that, but it's it's taken on a significance and a resonance beyond that. So it's a very old question, goes back to the beginning of philosophy, and it's like, well, that's sort of what you have to talk about first, because it's like philosophy, to use Wikipedia's introductory language, it's the systemized study of general and fundamental questions such as those of existence, reason, knowledge, values, mind, and language. So what happens first? Existence, right? Things seem to exist. What does that mean? How do we describe that? How do we explore that? And then, to me, like the really interesting question is the fact that humans seem to be the only ones capable of or inclined to ask those questions. And so you're constantly asking these questions of how does the human fit into the rest of existence? There's almost this sort of underlying assumption that there's a special significance to humans, and that we're the only ones who actually ask these questions. And so what that sort of does automatically is it makes the question of metaphysics not just about what is, but how humans fit into what is. And so we're constantly asking questions about how our minds work and how our minds perceive reality and how our minds access things that are not here yet, but that we want to be real, right? There's that question of potentiality and reality. These are all metaphysical questions. And so when you have a conversation with me, that's kind of the realm in which my mind is inhabiting. And I'm, looking for the significance of existence and then how that relates to your specific condition, So that's why I call myself a metaphysical leadership mentor. It's a very authentic, and I would say, like there's real academic integrity behind my use of that word, so I want to be clear about that. So this series, after that introduction, which I quite enjoyed, but this series is about my metaphysical model, because I came up with a metaphysical model to describe or kind of guide or to kind of help flow or provide a source from which to flow of my conversations for entrepreneurs and leaders, to help them continue to see their ideal and to manifest that. And so I discerned a model, and it's like this is the central kind of core and heart of what I teach, and where kind of my thoughts and my intuitions and my guidance comes from. And so I'm going to go through that today. Now, there's a lot of other insights that have come from this, that I kind of express in different ways that you don't exactly find on this framework. But as far as everything that I understand about the way the world works, the way, or not just the world, but existence works, the way that humans have speculated about it, all the ways that they've done it, how some stories seem to explain some things and not others, and other stories do the same, but vice versa. And just pondering the human condition, and looking around and comparing it to the other conditions that we see, this is the model that I've come up with to express and and explain that. And from what I've seen, it seems to have a good deal of explanatory power, in that it doesn't ever claim to answer too much, go out of its skis, but there's just enough shape, just enough of outline that it gives to give people a perspective to improve the way that they see things, and kind of draw more fulfillment and inspiration and energy from the particular place that they find themselves within, this mysterious, wonderful thing that we call the human condition. So that's what this framework does. It's a history of time and space. It's also about the future. It unifies those. All of existence is on here somewhere, and so that, that's what this is. And as we go through this, I hope you'll see that I really do mean what I say there. This is about changing your perspective. It's about changing your perspective on what is, who you are, how you fit into what is, so that your behavior changes and your outlook changes, and so your life changes. It can't ever be perfected, right? That's the paradox of it. But how do we start heading in that direction? Because ultimately, I believe that's what we're here to do. So that's my introduction to metaphysics and my personal metaphysics. And so we're going to go through. There's 5 realms. You can keep track of them on your hand. We'll go through them right now, starting at my pinky. From bottom to top. This is meant to be read upwards. So on the bottom is motion. And then the ring finger is life, middle finger is action, index finger is strategy, thumb is purpose. Now, my good friend Todd Kukan, with whom I do another podcast called Crushing Company Culture. So check that out. If you enjoy hearing me talk, that's another fun podcast. And Todd and I play off each other. We're very different, but ultimately we have similar goals, and so that's very fun. He said, "Hey, Aaron, do you realize what happens if you read it down and you use the first letters as acrostics? Purpose, strategy, action, life, motion. It spells the word psalm." I had not realized that, so I guess you'd call it the psalm framework. That's a little bit too religious. Because I don't mean this to be religious, but I did say to Todd, well, it's clearly a sign from God that I'm on the right track. Just kidding, but kind of. So we're going to go through those realms one by one, and then there may be a couple other episodes to wrap it up. So I will see you in the next episode, where we'll talk briefly about the realm of motion. I'll see you then. This is Aaron Marks of AaronJMarks.com. I'm a visionary purpose coach, metaphysical leadership mentor. This is my podcast, A Higher Level, and that was my introduction to metaphysics and my metaphysical model. Thanks so much for listening to A Higher Level. I hope that got you seeing, thinking, and acting just a little differently, or maybe even a lot. When you act differently, you get different results. But we need to start with the vision and the thinking. How do you feel? Ready to go and make positive, inspiring changes in your life and work? If so, it means what we're doing here is working, and I would love for you to let me know if this is you. There's a bunch of ways for you to get in touch with me. You can go to my website, aaronjmarks.com, or look for Aaron J. Marks, Visionary Purpose Coach and Metaphysical Leadership Mentor on Facebook, or you can look for Aaron J. Marks on LinkedIn or Instagram, whatever is easiest for you. And if this is speaking to you, I might suggest that you think about becoming one of my leadership coaching clients. In our work together, we'll have conversations on this level, but tailored just to your life and aspirations. You really can't imagine what a difference this can make for your mindset, vision, and results. The first step after learning more about my approach is to book a free, no-obligation discovery call, both of which you can do at aaronjmarks.com. If your intuition is nudging you, don't wait any longer. It is likely the next step along the marvelous journey of wherever you are here to go and whatever it is you are here to do. And I can't wait to meet you. Thanks again for listening, everyone. I'll see you on the next episode, when we'll continue to see, think, and act on a higher level. I'll see you then. A Higher Level is the official podcast of Aaron J. Marks, visionary purpose coach and metaphysical leadership mentor. Learn more at www.aaronjmarks.com. A Higher Level is written, recorded, edited, and produced by Aaron J. Marks. Music is by Aryeh. I'll see you next time on A Higher Level.